Well, this is it. What a scene here at the Monster Energy Motocross of Nations. We're the Insiders, Jason Weigandt, Jason Thomas, on the scene, a special edition of the show. As you can see behind us, Team Australia has won for the second year in a row. Now look, JT, going to the final moto, as always, with this format, it's always close in points. But to me, this was a more stamp-it, dominant type performance from Australia than when they eked it out last year. And I think it's really hard to find any argument that the Lawrence brothers are the two best in the world right now.
100%. And I think the math was a little misleading because we weren't factoring in that drop score. And once the Lawrences, it was left to them in race 3, you knew the way they had been riding all weekend long that they were going to deliver that world-class performance again, and the points were going to run away. So I think that Australia was almost a given, even though the math looked tight.
Yeah.
It was really between France and the USA and Belgium early to try to secure those podium spots. That's where the real race was. Australia really separated themselves.
And we knew they'd be strong, so it came down to could they avoid the bad racing luck. And Kyle Webster had 2 first-turn crashes. He overcame that. Those other 3 teams, they were ones that had their errors that cost them a lot of points.
Well, yeah, there was chaos. Even in Australia, to have 2 first-turn crashes. Yeah. Really credit Kyle Webster for overcoming adversity. You know, that the Lawrences are going to grab the headlines, but the adversity side for Kyle Webster shouldn't be overlooked, because if he put a 25 on the board with that first-turn crash, this could look a lot different.
Yes. We'll dig into a lot more in this episode, including Team USA's podium performance. SMX Insider on site.
Let's go!
Well, it's done and it's dusted. The 78th edition of the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations and Crawfordsville, Indiana's Ironman Raceway becomes the 5th track in the United States to host a prestigious event, and it was a great one. Yeah, we'll give you all the stories in this upcoming show, including the changes to the facility to accommodate the event, teams that had great rides that might not go noticed in the results, but of course also the teams that did have great results, and it starts with the Australians, who for the second year in a row have come out on top, and maybe this time less surprised than last time, because the Lawrences are quickly stamping their own legacy, this race just being a part of that. And Team USA strong second for the second straight year. We can show you the results from the race, with Team USA finishing second, as mentioned, with another underdog effort, with riders scrambling in late due to injury, and a big battle with France, which is always greater than the sum of its parts, ending up tied on points, third with the tiebreaker to Team USA. The rest of the top 10 is here, some surprises in there, but that's mostly because of some of the favorite teams had some really bad luck, which we'll get into in this show. But as for the history, it's mostly written by the winners, and that includes the Lawrence brothers, and they are our big interview along with their teammate, Kyle Webster. All right, big interview. It doesn't get much bigger. I don't care. You can be loud back there. We got a bunch of Australian fans. This is the team for the second year in a row. Same riders, Jett, Lawrence. They're really proud of this guy for coming through the pack. They're really proud. Oh, we're going to start right here with Kyle Webster. 2 first-turn crashes, and you really dug out some serious points.
Yeah, it was not ideal by all means, you know, to go down in the first turn like that, but I don't know. I felt like I left absolutely everything out there and gave it all I could to the end, so it was enough, which is good, but I'm just very thankful for these 2 boys. You know, they're unbelievable. So good to watch. Not enough praise can be given to them. So yeah, it was what a day. These guys especially, it's just unbelievable.
You won for the first time last year, Jett, in England. That was a real nail-biter. This is not home soil, but it is where you live now. Did it feel different than last year for all the different reasons?
No, for sure. I feel like trying to back it up is always just as hard as doing it the first time. Like you said, Kyle rode unreal with charging through the pack twice, which is never easy, man. And Hunter rode unreal today, going 1-1 is sick against like basically the world. And I couldn't be more happy with the team, honestly. I tried riding the best I can and made the mistake in the second one, but we were able to come back to third, thankfully. So super happy. But yeah, it's kind of like a second home America obviously is. So it was great to have America second, but we're super happy to win it again because that just feels awesome.
Thank you, Weege. And Hunter, man of the hour, you go 1-1 today. And thinking about that race 3, you're out front. You're kind of doing your thing as you had really been all weekend. Did you know kind of the drama that was unfolding behind you? Were you aware of where Jett was at any point? We were talking about it in the booth. trying to understand your thought process. Like, do we have this? Are you wondering where Jett is? What are the thoughts going through your head in the moment?
I was just focusing on myself, and then the later stages of the race, I was not really getting told like where Jett's position was from my mechanic, so I figured no news is good news. He's good enough to handle that. So going into the last lap, Eli was coming, and I was like, let's finish it on a high note. Focused on myself, closed it out, and then last lap I got given bring it home. So I figured that was good news, and stoked. He ended up getting back to third, so that was, no dramas there, and just we did it. We came, we saw, and we won, and just grateful.
Okay, I want to go back to your first race. You win pretty convincingly, but you have 2 mistakes, and we really haven't seen mistakes from you this whole Pro Motocross campaign. Was that track conditions? I heard that all throughout the weekend, how slippery it was, or that just the pressure of this moment, how big this stage is?
No, yeah. I said, I'm like, man, I've crashed more in that motor than I feel like I have in the past 8 months, but no, I think it was more I was just trying to conserve energy and just kind of trying to flow and not really. Last moto I was just on it, like really going for it and just, okay, breathe here, and then push here and stuff, and really was doing what I needed to do. But that one, I was just kind of managing, and it caught me out twice, and different kind of race to what I've had to race all year long.
Okay, time for the 30-second board. We're back at the studio for this one as we unpack everything that happened over the weekend, and it starts with the changes to Ironman Raceway. Now, I think most people, JT, probably think this was preordained, that this was going to be the track that hosted the event. But when MX Sports had the chance to get a Motocross of Nations, they looked at a couple different tracks. I think High Point was one of their original ideas to host this event. But the amount of space needed for spectating and for campers, there's not a lot of tracks big enough for this event anymore, and that's why you're seeing kind of a revolving door of the same tracks. Ironman is gigantic. They had so many campers, so many fans, and a lot of other changes just to accommodate how much bigger this is than any other motocross event.
Yeah, in the end, I think Ironman was a great choice, and they have so much experience with whether it's pro motocross races or the huge GNCC event that is later this October. So they have a lot of experience, and they know the capacity and what that community can hold. So in the end, it really felt like it was the right choice.
So there were 2 massive grandstands trucked in that, again, are not normally there for the National. I was talking to Jeff Russell, part of the track crew, and he said there was a debate, do we need 2? And by Saturday morning, they said, great move to get the second grandstand, because it was already packed by Saturday, and then even more people came in on Sunday. The crowd was massive, could drive for miles and still find campers. That was awesome. And a nod, yes, to that community you mentioned, and a lot of it to me is because they have been hosting this big GNCC in this town for 30 years now. They were ready for this in a way that I didn't expect. So they decided to hold the opening ceremony Parade of Nations in town, not at the track, which I thought, great concept, but are you going to be able to actually execute this? They had shuttle buses, and you got to host the show there with Paul Malin of MXGP. It worked.
Yeah, it was a home run across, I think, every metric. And when this got announced last year, let's go back in the time machine to Matterley Basin a year ago, and the mayor of Crawfordsville was there, and they had all of these grand plans. And I know I was at some quiet moments of the weekend going, man, that's going to be really hard to pull off, some of these things. And I have to give credit where it's due. Not only did they pull it off, this was a smashing success. The turnout from the parade alone was enough to deem this entire project a success. I've never seen anything like that, Weege. That was a spectacle to behold, and I think one of the bright spots in the recent motocross history, honestly.
Yeah, and then a couple other details sprinkled in that I didn't even realize. So there is a high school in Crawfordsville right across the street from the track, and they happen to have Friday Night Lights high school football. So they had a football there. They had their own opening ceremony at that with our own Ricky Carmichael there and Rob Ninkovich, who we've had on this show as a big interview guest, former NFL player, huge motocross, supercross fan. Can you imagine the thoughts from the community there when these guys showed up?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I didn't even realize that the Rob Ninkovich thing kind of happened until after the event. So that's super cool, and that having the marching bands all part of that parade, and then I'm sure they had to go straight over and join their football game. So all aspects of the community, even going to the local restaurants, they knew everything that was going on. They were asking like, hey, what's this going to be like compared to GNCC? And I basically just said, hold on to your hat. because this is going to be a whole new level. So again, you cannot give enough credit to everyone involved on the execution side of this project.
And then in addition, we had heard about this a few weeks ago that Jeremy McGrath's Holeshot King Challenge was coming to this event. He's done this a few times at other big events, but it was McGrath and a bunch of legends doing starts against each other. And what an amazing concept. And again, execution this was. It was a who's who of Team USA legends, and the fans got to watch it all Saturday night.
Yeah, this was an incredible thing to watch go down. It was bracket racing, which we were kind of all like theorizing who would win and who kind of came in prepared, who was maybe a little bit behind the 8 ball as far as preparation. But in true Ironman Motocross of the Nation style, Australia won that also. Chad Reed went in and got the job done. Shouldn't be shocking if you watched anything that happened all weekend that Australia would do it too. But I think the coolest aspect of it was they started calling each other out. People were like, hey, I want some of that guy, because maybe they didn't get to go up against them in the bracket. And this went on much longer than I think was expected, because those racers all wanted to keep going, which, you know, it kind of got to feel like maybe they just do their thing and then it's over before it even gets started. This was not that. This lingered for seemingly hours, where these guys were just like, no, we don't get to do this very often, so we're going to make the most of it.
Yeah, so as mentioned, you had Reed over McGrath in the final. You also had Villapoto, Carmichael, Tedesco, Stanton, Bradshaw, and also then 60-plus-year-old Jeff Ward, the Grand Marshal, decides he wants to do it. He didn't even have gloves. He did it anyway. And I go back to something you told me at your own Holeshot Challenge at Washougal against the much less credentialed Steve Mathis. You're like, man, it's just muscle memory. Yeah, I haven't done a start in 10 years. The fact that, what's the age range between, say, Villapoto and Ward? Almost 30 years? Didn't matter. It's even Steven. I learned that from you. That's really what makes this event work to me.
Yeah, you don't have to be fit. You don't have to have a bunch of seat time to go turn laps. There's some things in this sport, and I think you could liken it to riding a bicycle. Those things you remember very quickly, so it all comes back super fast. And you're talking about a lot of technology change, 2-stroke to 4-stroke. These guys didn't run the Holeshot devices, so that evened things up a little bit. But I think we saw what talent looks like. These guys that are in their 50s and 60s still able to compete with riders that won a championship a decade ago.
And then, on top winning right now. Look, there's no doubt about it. The Lawrences, this just adds to the steamroller that they put on the competition. And honestly, last year, Team Australia won, and that was huge. It's the first time Australia had ever won it. Back in the day, they'd had many teams that were maybe even favored to win, but the luck was never on their side. Even with the Lawrences and Kyle Webster last year, you could not take the win for granted until they got it done. This year, I feel, I don't know what it was like maybe in the 1980s when Team USA was winning nonstop, but coming into this race, JT, this was the most, if things go a certain way, it's probably going to be the Australians winning. And then they execute it as they always do. It's hard in a one-day event to have a massive gap and not much doubt, but I feel like that's what we were all in for, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble assuming results for the Motocross of Nations, but this felt like, on paper, they had a really big advantage. And you can even throw in 2 first-turn crashes for their MX2 rider, Kyle Webster, and they still won by, 14 points, which should give you an idea of the kind of domination that they exuded really throughout the weekend. It was a pretty consistent effort from them. Would they go 1-1-5 on Saturday? So the writing was on the wall. You know, Team USA had so many changes to work through that when you really put everything together, of course, Australia was going to win. I think everybody was just holding out hope that if a couple things, as you mentioned, go someone else's way, they can get it done. But Australia just had way too much.
A second feel-good story from this race is Joe Shimoda. We were very excited to see what he could do on a 450. He had the wind in his sails because the crowd loved his performance at the SMX World Championship there. And he pretty much delivered. He was good.
He was. And you wonder how making the immediate jump to the 450 at this race is going to go. We've seen incredible results. Think about Ryan Dungey. More than 15 years ago, that first race, like he really, I think, sent a shot across the bow to the 450 world about what was coming. But for Shimoda, he's riding that high from the Las Vegas and all the, let's just say, drama surrounding it, right? But he overcame all of that to win his first championship. And I thought after kind of a little bit of a rocky start, I don't think everything went necessarily to plan early on, but he got better and better and better and really showed that with more time, he could be a player in the 450 class. And that's really what he's still working on. He needs to secure his 450 future for the long term. So anybody that was kind of wondering what that would look like, they got a pretty good preview at Ironman.
Yeah, and you have to wonder on the Team USA side, they were doing the opposite, putting Justin Cooper back on the 250. He rode well, but there had to be an adjustment going on there as well. But also benefiting Team USA, getting that second, and France getting third. They didn't have perfect days by any means, but some of the other teams that should have been in that podium mix and might have even been better, man, did they have bad luck. So we have three of them we can focus on here. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually Germany, because they have Ken Roczen, who not only is he an American citizen now, but the fans seem to know it, because he was getting cheered almost as much as the American riders, and he always shows up for this event. He did on Saturday in the qualifying race, finishing second behind Jett, but he was down early in both motos. But worse, Simone Langenfelder, their world champ in the 250 class, was down and out literally in the first turn of the race. So tough one on Germany. They never had a shot.
Yeah, that's a bad break, and they knew it was going to be an uphill climb. Max Spies just really doesn't have the experience on this type of stage to give them the type of result they need to be in contention. They knew it going in. It kind of played out on Sunday as well, but the rest of the team had all kinds of bad luck too. Sounds like Langenfelder has a broken scapula now, which is fine. He'll have plenty of time to heal up, but it was a really difficult Sunday for Team Deutschland, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then you wanted to mention the Netherlands team, which already there was some controversy because they did not put Jeffrey Herlings on the team, and then Herlings went on a victory run toward the end of the MXGP calendar, but not on the team, and then it got worse on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot of talk behind the scenes about how can we not have Herlings on this team, but when the team was announced, Herlings wasn't quite right. He was coming off of a broken collarbone. They weren't really sure if, no one knew that he was going to win races down the stretch. They weren't sure how ready he would be, period. So they went with, let's face it, a really strong team anyway. Was it the horsepower they needed to win? Probably not. But with Glenn Coldenhoff's crash, which was not his fault, he landed on another motorcycle that was down, broke some ribs. It sounds like he wasn't able to go on Sunday. Team Netherlands was basically finished before they started going into Sunday, but that was a tough break, and they really performed anyway. When you look at how, Kai de Wolf wins the individual MX2 division, Flandern was kind of running around the top 10. What could have been with Jeffrey Herlings is what I will leave that event with.
And then the ultimate what could have been is the Belgian team. We both talked about it at length probably in the last 10 days before the event. I was really interested in what Lucas Koenen could do at the individual level. Could he win the MXGP class and really shock some of the Americans that don't know of him? You were really high on the team's chances overall. And for a moment, first couple of minutes of the very first moto, it looked like that could be.
Yeah, and if you were looking for a team that you really wanted to kind of, if that's your horse and you want to bet on it, watch out for Team Belgium moving forward. They have three incredibly young guys. Both of the Koenen brothers, 18 years old. I think Liam Everett's a little bit older than that, 20 years old, something like that. The future is incredibly bright for that team. Liam Everett was really the one that everybody was kind of wondering how he would do on the big bike. He ran around the top 5 all afternoon on Sunday, and he was the worry. So you take Sasha Koenen's crashes out of the equation, which is always a concern, but that kid can win, as we saw on Saturday. And Lucas Koenen is going to be an MXGP world champion if he sticks around that series for long enough. I'm telling you, Weege, Team USA we'll get to, but if you're looking for a team that can challenge the Australians next year in France, you don't need to look past Team Belgium. I truly think they can do it.
Yeah, I think there's a rivalry building there in more ways than one. Some people deep in the industry kind of understand some of the connection there, the brothers thing, and more. And you might see it even in the world of Supermotocross a year or two in the future, because there's always rumors of the Koenen brothers moving to the United States. But let's get to Team USA. And I always feel like there's only one team that has a pass-fail grade in this event. You hear a lot of teams, JT, talk about we want to finish on the podium or maybe top 5's a goal. I've always felt like Team USA, it's either win or it doesn't matter. But the last 2 years, I feel like the fans have felt a little differently, because the last 2 years have been a last-minute scramble. Second again, but I don't know, the level of disappointment to me is not where it normally is. Americans are very proud. They don't like losing. But I guess because of the fill-in situation, maybe this one didn't sting as much. What do you think?
I think they should be proud of their effort. I think most fans knew just all of the chaos, the uncertainty, and for the riders that stepped up in the last second that, let's face it, going into the Las Vegas SMX World Championship final, they didn't think they were going to be racing the Motocross of Nations. They came and they delivered a second place overall. I think most people appreciated that effort.
Let's hear from the three American racers after the race on how they think the weekend went.
It's a big weekend, and it all starts with Friday. Like just at the parade, it's such a different atmosphere. It's really fun to come together, working as a team here with two other teammates, RJ and Justin. Both of them stepped up. It's just, things, of course, things can shake around right before this race, and that kind of happened to us, but they stepped up.
It was challenging for sure, and dropping down to the 250 felt really good all weekend, but man, it's a long weekend. Like, there's a lot of activities going on, and there's a lot of appearances you got to make, right? So just, it's been like a good 3 days now of wide open all day long. So yeah, definitely proud of myself for doing this and stepping up and, getting this done. But we just got to get up to the whole team. We all are in this together, and we all came together as one, and it's special. You don't get many races like this.
I was riding well that first moto, and just didn't have the best luck, and then picked myself up again and worked my way back up. I think ended up fourth there at the end and 2 to go. Just lost it there. Like, took a lot of energy out of myself with the qualifying race yesterday, and then that first moto, and then had another big one, that second moto right off the bat. So overall, like I said, these two kind of carried the team today. Luckily enough, I could put one result in. I wish it was a bit better, but still, it's cool to leave here with the podium.
You know what? The second place is awesome for these guys. I'm so proud of them. We knew the Australians were going to be tough. That was going to be no secret, and they were. They threw everything they had it. We threw everything we had it. These guys stepping up after a long season you can't ask for much more out of these three guys. And we're here with a second place, and I couldn't be prouder of these guys.
All right, well, that's the story there. Tomac is Tomac. Great job. Second in that final moto was spectacular. He's actually the only guy to beat one of the Lawrences to the finish line in any of the races all weekend. And you have to think of the generational thing. To see Tomac in there battling the Lawrences, even guys like Fevra and Geyser, who've been around a long time, he's really a generation even ahead of them. So it's amazing that Tomac is still this good. I think the real question is the other two who were fill-ins, so we have to grade everything on a curve here. Hampshire is the one that really could have tilted it. But look, in the end, they were 14 points behind. It almost didn't matter what he was going to do anyway. But you and I were watching the moto together. As RJ said, it was going well until it wasn't. And then it really unraveled, man.
Yeah, I think Tomac deserves a ton of credit because he had a tough Saturday. That was not his best effort. I don't think he was very comfortable. So for him to turn it around, I think showed just the resilience that he's proven he has over the years. And he likes to step up in the moment. We've seen that for years, that this race means a lot. I thought Justin Cooper was great all weekend. Now, could you have said maybe, get a little bit further up in the MX2 and the overall? Sure, but that was a really tough ask to drop down. And then RJ, man, he really had an opportunity in his first race. I think he could have gotten second if it wasn't for that initial run-in with Joe Shimoda, which was completely a racing incident, by the way. And then it just really started to unravel. The saving grace, I think, for RJ and why he'll be able to sleep fine this week is that it didn't really change a lot. He would have had to blow things up in the second race to even have a chance. So really, yes, horrific second effort. First moto, 3 crashes, I think. But in the end, it really probably would have stayed the same anyway. So if you can kind of wrap your head around that, second place was what the team probably deserved. The tough part is this, had they fallen to third, and it was razor thin margins for that second to third, that would have been a little tougher, but second at the end of the day is something to smile about.
And we know one fan in particular was putting in an effort of his own. I've met this guy at a couple of races through the years, but I saw him Saturday morning, and he told me he had a goal to get an autograph from every single racer in the event, which to me was a tall order. And by Saturday night, I saw him, and he actually got it done. He had 111 competitors. He got one autograph twice, so that's 112. Yeah, so amazing accomplishment, even just to come up with that idea to do that and treat all the teams equally. And that is really what's part of the fabric of this race, JT. It's really an experience well beyond just the results at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I would say this is one of the most unique aspects about whether it's SuperMotocross or MXGP, take your pick. The accessibility to our athletes really separates our sport in general. You just simply can't get near a Lewis Hamilton or a Max Verstappen on the biggest weekend of the year and take a photo. I saw them taking photos with people all weekend long. There were people jumping up and down in the parade alongside Jett Lawrence in the back of a pickup truck on Friday. Try to do that with George Russell at Monaco, and you're going to end up in jail for probably a month. That is what makes our sport different from the rest. The accessibility to your heroes is something I hope we never lose in this sport.
Well, that is it on the 2025 season, not just the 31 rounds of the SuperMotocross World Championship, but also Motocross of Nations held in America. We're going to go dark for a few weeks, but we will be back with, honestly, what could be more exciting than any of the actual races we've covered this year, JT. At the beginning of November, we'll have a silly season update show. There is going to be a lot of movement announced. They just announced Jason Anderson this week is now part of Twisted Tea Progressive Suzuki. He'll be a teammate of Ken Roczen. But there's going to be a lot of news coming between now and our next show at November, so you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, I think, the Motocross of Nations really put a week's delay in a lot of the news, so I think you'll see a lot of things dropping between now and then. We just don't know where Jorge Prado is going to end up. Chase Sexton, we think that move is coming. News on Eli Tomac, and there's a lot of riders we simply don't know. Joe Shimoda still hasn't signed a contract. He probably is the biggest free agent still on the market right now, so hopefully we get some clarity that we can dive into on the next show.
Yep, and then beginning of December, we will start prepping for the 2026 season as Monster Energy Supercross looms in January. Remember, all tickets on sale now to all 28 regular season rounds, both Monster Energy Supercross and Pro Motocross. And the whole calendar is out as well. So go to supermotocross.com, get your tickets, start planning. If you want a little downtime, we don't blame you. We're going to do that ourselves. We'll be back at the beginning of November to talk a lot of moves, which is going to make for a very intriguing 2026.